Fix old cameras. Your successful completion of the demonstrated repair ultimately depends on the quality of your tools, the condition of your camera, and most importantly, your repair ability.
A Nikon FG. Ouch! Not only is it ugly, the impact disabled the counter. Before removing the top cover, please note that all the screws are of the JIS cross-point variety. Substituting a Phillips screwdriver for the cross-point screwdriver could mar the screws. Start off by removing all 8 screws from the top cover. Note that the nameplate screws are a little longer. Pop open the film door and lock the rewind fork with the shaft of a screwdriver so that the rewind knob can be spun off. It is removed counterclockwise. The Nikon FG rewind shaft is in 2 parts. The center part will drop free as soon as you remove the rewind knob. The outer sleeve of the rewind shaft will stay in place. Go ahead and remove the film door at this time. Don't overlook the small set screw that locks the advance lever retaining nut in place. To do so will lead to much cussing and discussing. A small slotted screwdriver will do the job. It doesn't need to be removed, just loosened. With the set screw addressed, you may now remove the advance lever nut. A flexi clamp is helpful, but not absolutely necessary. With the advance lever retaining nut removed, the advance lever itself, along with the shutter button, can also be removed. Please note that the advance lever has a tab and the shutter button shaft has a slot. The two need to be realigned upon reassembly. A spanner wrench is pretty much essential to remove the shutter speed dial retainer. If you do not have one, there are some ideas in some other fix old camera videos on how to make a DIY spanner wrench. A spanner wrench is again used to remove the ASA dial retainer. Note the position of the cam washer that acts as a stop for the ASA dial. Then go ahead and remove the ASA dial. Note the post and hole that need to be realigned upon reassembly. There is nothing left that needs to be removed, so now just lift the top cover free, carefully wiggling it back and forth to get it to clear the viewfinder frame. There are some wires that are held in place by solder. To make sure that they are soldered back in place correctly, you might mark them. Using a micro-tip soldering iron, remove the wires. Color code the speaker and speaker wire and remove. A hot micro-tip soldering iron makes quick work. The black speaker wire will be glued in place and will need to be gently encouraged away from the inner housing of the top cover. If the speaker stickum is stubborn, seep a little alcohol behind it before trying to remove it. If not, you will separate the speaker into 2 pieces. Crud. Oh well, no harm done. Just snap the 2 pieces back together. Align the 4 little nipples with their respective holes and press. Now the little speaker is as it should be. A pretty little top cover graciously donated from a camera that had gone swimming. Use the old damaged top cover with marks on it for reference on where to solder the wires on the new top cover. A little rosin flux placed on the solder points will allow the solder to flow nicely when the wires are reattached. With the wires reattached properly, let's check out the counter to see what kind of damage was done there. Looks like the counter pointer cover is causing the counter wheel to bind. Working a flat-bladed tool beneath the counter wheel and the cover allows it to be reshaped without actually having to remove it from the camera. Now the counter wheel turns freely. Satisfied with the counter, we can now put the top cover back in place. Make sure that you align the release lock button with the hole. Then pull back the detent lever spring as you place the shutter speed dial into position. The tab of the shutter speed dial will also have to be aligned with the shutter speed linkage. With the tab aligned with the slot, rotate the dial as you press down, and the dial will eventually drop into place. When it drops into place, you will feel the detent engage. Once the dial is seated, rotate once again to confirm proper function. Replace the shutter speed dial retainer. Keep even pressure on both sides of the retainer as you use a small slotted screwdriver to start the threads. Be extra patient and delicate on this step because at this point you do not want to cross the threads. Snugly tighten, but not overly tight. Finish off with a spanner wrench. Remember, as mentioned earlier in the video, the shutter release button shaft has a slot that needs to be aligned with the tab on the advance lever. Shutter speed button and advance lever in perfect position, you can now replace the shutter advance lever retainer nut. Use even pressure around the retainer nut as you spin to start the threads. With the advance lever retainer nut snugly in place, don't forget to tighten the set screw. With the advance release side of the camera buttoned up, give it a test to make sure it's functioning properly. Okay, time to move on to the ASA rewind side of the camera. Line the ASA dial and the ASA dial post and drop in place. Press the ASA lock button and spin the ASA dial to make certain that it works properly. Install the ASA stop washer in the proper position. The tab points forward. Start the threads of the ASA dial retaining nut with a small slotted screwdriver. Then tighten the ASA retainer nut with a spanner wrench. Just tight is just right. Now slide the rewind shaft into the rewind shaft bushing, inserting the rewind shaft that you don't push the rewind bushing out of place. If you push the rewind bushing out of place, you will have to remove the top cover to access the rewind shaft detent to get the bushing to slide back into the opening. Get the rewind knob spacer washing before spinning the rewind knob back in place. Again, lock the fork of the rewind shaft so that the rewind knob may be snugly tightened. Pull the film door hinge pin down so that the door can be installed as shown. Remember to use the 2 long screws when installing the Nikon nameplate. Again, a good quality JIS crosspoint screwdriver might just be the most important tool when attempting to disassemble these classic cameras of this era. Although the circuitry and the mechanism of the donor camera was a corroded rust bucket, the top cover was in beautiful condition. Very nice.
Thank you for watching. Inspired? Check back for new video postings.